Some stories are so terrifying they blur the line between reality and nightmare. They seep into your consciousness, planting a seed of fear that grows in the dark. These aren't just campfire tales, they are raw, unfiltered accounts of events that defy explanation, moments where the veil between our world and another is ripped wide open. We're talking about encounters that leave permanent scars on the human psyche, experiences that make you question everything you thought you knew about the world we live in. We are drawn to these stories, compelled to understand the darkness that exists just beyond our perception. Tonight, we delve into 3 real-life encounters that will haunt your dreams. We're not just telling stories, we're taking you on a journey to the very edge of fear. I'm going to walk you through documented events that have baffled investigators and terrified witnesses for decades. We'll explore the chilling evidence, the first-hand accounts, and the oppressive atmospheres of locations where evil seems to have taken root. These are places where the echoes of tragedy and pain still scream out from the shadows, desperate to be heard. Prepare yourself. What you're about to hear is not for the faint of heart. We are about to cross a threshold, to step into a world where the explainable ends and the paranormal begins. I need to know what you, the audience, feel as we go through these locations. I want you to feel the energy, the cold spots, the sheer terror, as if you were standing right there with me. Lock your doors, turn down the lights, and join me as we uncover the truth behind these terrifying tales. We begin our investigation in a seemingly ordinary council house in Enfield, a quiet suburb of North London. But in 1977, this home became the epicenter of one of the most documented and terrifying poltergeist cases in history. The Hodgson family, a single mother, Peggy, and her 4 children, began experiencing things they couldn't explain. It started small, almost innocently. Furniture moving on its own, a slight tremor in the walls. But the energy in this location was just building, feeding off the family's growing fear, waiting for the right moment to unleash its full, malevolent power. The activity escalated with a terrifying speed. Lego bricks and marbles would fly through the air, propelled by an unseen force with incredible velocity and accuracy, as if thrown by an invisible hand. Heavy furniture, like a solid oak chest of drawers, would slide across the floor, defying gravity and logic. The family was under constant siege. Imagine the sheer terror of living in your own home, your sanctuary, and having it turned into a war zone by an entity you can't see, an entity whose only goal seems to be to torment you and drive you from the very place you're supposed to feel safe. This wasn't just a haunting, it was a targeted psychological assault. The focus of this violent spiritual energy seemed to be the 2 young daughters, Janet and Margaret. Janet, just 11 years old, began to show signs of possession. She would be thrown from her bed by an invisible force, levitating in midair in front of horrified eyewitnesses, including police officers and journalists. This wasn't just a child's imagination. We have credible witnesses, people of authority, who saw these events with their own eyes and couldn't explain them. They documented the cold spots, the sudden drops in temperature that signal a paranormal presence drawing energy from its surroundings. Then came the voice, a deep, guttural, demonic voice that seemed to come from Janet herself, yet it was not her own. It was the voice of an old man, coarse and filled with rage. Through a spirit box or direct vocal phenomena, this entity claimed to be Bill Wilkins, a man who had died in the house years before. He spoke of his death, of the hemorrhage that took his life in a chair downstairs. This was a direct communication, an intelligent response from the other side, confirming the presence of a spirit trapped within these walls, filled with anger and resentment. Paranormal investigators, including Maurice Gross and Guy Lyon Playfair, spent months documenting the events. They captured audio recordings of the demonic voice, photographs of levitating objects, and even video evidence. Yet questions remain. Was this a true poltergeist, a manifestation of a tormented spirit, or was it something darker, a demonic entity masquerading as a human soul to gain the family's trust before tearing them apart? The energy in that house was so negative, so oppressive, It clings to the very fabric of the building to this day, a permanent stain of a family's nightmare. Our next journey takes us to the desolate, frozen backroads of rural Minnesota. On the night of May 14, 2008, a 19-year-old college student named Brandon Swanson vanished into the darkness, leaving behind a mystery that chills me to the bone. After a night out celebrating the end of the semester, Brandon was driving home when his car slid into a ditch. He wasn't injured, and this should have been a simple inconvenience. But this single event triggered a chain reaction that led him into an abyss from which he would never return. The raw energy of that night, the fear and confusion, is still palpable. Stranded and disoriented, Brandon called his parents. He told them he was near the town of Lind, but he wasn't sure of his exact location. For the next 45 minutes, he stayed on the phone with his father, guiding him toward his location. He described walking through fields, hearing the sound of water and seeing lights he believed were from the nearby town. His parents were searching frantically, driving the dark country roads, calling his name into the empty night. But they couldn't find him. The landscape he described didn't match the area they were in. It was as if he had stepped into another dimension, a parallel reality just feet away from our own. The final moments of that phone call are the most terrifying part of this entire investigation. Brandon was walking, talking to his father, trying to navigate the pitch-black fields. Suddenly he let out a sharp curse, "Oh shit!" and the line went dead. Just like that. Silence. That single, abrupt exclamation is a piece of audio evidence, a final, desperate communication. What did he see in that last second? Was it a sudden drop, a hidden well, or the river he mentioned? Or was it something else? Something waiting for him in the darkness? The energy of that final moment is so potent, so filled with raw fear, and massive search began immediately. Police, search dogs, and hundreds of volunteers scoured a 100-square-mile area for weeks. They found his car, exactly where it should be, miles from where Brandon told his parents he was. This discrepancy is a critical piece of the puzzle. Why was he so convinced he was near Lind when he was over 25 miles away? The search dogs tracked his scent for 3 miles, following a bizarre, meandering path along a gravel road, through fields, and then stopping abruptly at the edge of the Yellow Medicine River. The trail just ended. No body has ever been found, no clothing, no footprints, no answers. It's as if the earth itself swallowed him whole. Did he fall into the river, pulled under by the current, or did he encounter someone or something out there in the vast, empty darkness of the Minnesota plains? The area is known for its strange energy, a place where people feel watched. The unanswered questions hang heavy in the air, a constant, chilling reminder that sometimes the most terrifying monster is the unknown, lurking just past the reach of the headlights, waiting in the silence. For our final investigation, we travel to Louisville, Kentucky, to a place that is, honestly a vortex of pain and suffering, a monumental tombstone to thousands of souls. Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Built in the early 1900s to combat the so-called White Plague of tuberculosis, this building witnessed unimaginable death and despair. We're talking about an estimated 63,000 deaths. That much concentrated human misery doesn't just fade away. It saturates the very walls, the floors, the air. It creates a powerful residual energy that, replays the horrors of the past, night after night. The most infamous part of this decaying hospital is the body chute, or death tunnel. This 500-foot tunnel was used to transport the bodies of the deceased discreetly from the hospital to the bottom of the hill, out of sight of the living patients, to keep morale from plummeting. I've walked this tunnel. The air is heavy, thick with sorrow. You can feel the presence of countless souls being wheeled through this dark passage, their final journey on this earth. Investigators have captured EVPs, electronic voice phenomena. Here, disembodied voices whispering, "Get out, help me," and the sounds of moans and crying. These are intelligent responses, direct communication from the spirits trapped in this cycle of death. The 5th floor is considered the most active and dangerous part of Waverly Hills. This was the psychiatric ward and the area for the most severe TB cases. Here, shadow figures are seen darting down the long, decaying corridors. They move with purpose, peeking out from doorways before vanishing. We're not talking about tricks of the light. These are solid, man-shaped masses of dark energy, manifestations so powerful they can block out all light behind them. I believe these are not just human spirits. The sheer negativity here has attracted something darker, something inhuman that feeds on the residual fear and pain. One of the most well-known spirits is that of a young boy named Timmy. He's often seen on the third floor, a playful entity known to roll a ball back and forth with visitors. It's a sad reminder that children were not spared from the horrors of this place. But not all the spirits are innocent. Room 502 holds a dark legend of a nurse who, depending on the story, either took her own life or was murdered. Her apparition is seen standing in the window, and a feeling of overwhelming sadness and despair permeates the room. People who enter have reported feeling compelled to jump, a dangerous emotional manipulation from a tormented spirit. Waverly Hills is not just a haunted building, it is a gateway, a place where the veil is so thin, you can practically reach out and touch the other side. Every creak of the floorboards, every cold spot, every disembodied voice is a piece of evidence, a fragment of a story screaming to be told. The spirits here are not at rest. They are trapped in a loop of their final agonizing moments, and they want the living to understand their pain. To stand within these walls is to stand in the presence of death itself. We have journeyed through the terror of a family home under siege, walked the last known steps of a vanished young man, and stood within the decaying walls of a place saturated with death. These stories are more than just chilling tales. They are documented events that force us to confront a terrifying possibility, that we are not alone. The evidence we've examined, the photographs, the audio recordings, the eyewitness testimonies, all point to a world that exists just beyond our understanding, a world that can and does intersect with our own, often with horrifying consequences. The fear these stories evoke is real, because the questions they leave behind are unanswerable. What malevolent force tormented the Hodgson family? What did Brandon Swanson see in his final terrifying moment? And what truly walks the halls of Waverly Hills after dark? These locations hold a powerful dark energy, a residual consciousness left behind by intense trauma and emotion. They serve as a stark reminder that the veil between worlds is fragile, and sometimes the things on the other side find a way to break through. The darkness is vast, and our understanding is small. We search for answers in the shadows, using technology and our own senses to try and make contact, to understand what lies beyond the final curtain of death. But with every answer we find, a dozen more questions arise. Do you believe these stories are just legends, or is there something truly sinister lurking in the shadows? Share your scariest story in the comments below. I want to hear your experiences, your encounters with the unexplained. Until next time, stay safe and question everything.